Despite the very best prevention efforts, there may still come a time you will find yourself in an emergency situation.
During these times, stay calm, be prepared, and always wear your life jacket.
And as we mentioned before, you are required to provide assistance to other boaters if it is safe to do so.
One of the most important things to know is how to give and recognize a distress signal. There are numerous types of distress signals, including a continuous smoke signal, red rockets or flares, a square above a ball, orange smoke, raising and lowering your arms at your side, and of course, one of the best, Mayday. As we talked about earlier, there are several types of communication devices you can use to call for help. If you're using a VHF radio, turn it to the emergency frequency, channel 16. Then clearly say, Mayday, 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 3 times in a row. State your vessel name and call sign 3 times. Give your location, being as specific as possible. Include your latitude and longitude if you know them. Then state the nature of your distress, whether it's fire, grounding, or a medical emergency. Say the total number of people on board, and finally give a description of your vessel, including length, color, and type. If there's no immediate response to your Mayday, stay calm and continue to repeat this information until there is. While it's a good idea to carry communication devices on your boat, it's an even better idea to carry them on your person. If you get separated from your boat during an emergency, the items you have with you could save your life.
If somebody on your boat should suddenly fall overboard, or if you come upon someone in the water, the first rule of recovery is not to become a victim yourself. Immediately put on your life jacket, if you weren't already wearing one. Also, stay on the shore, a dock, or on the boat if at all possible. Swimming rescues should only be attempted by a trained rescuer, or if there is no other alternative.
After taking precautions to protect yourself, you should post a lookout to keep an eye on the victim at all times.
The first step is to throw a flotation aid to the person in the water. Tie a long line to another flotation aid and secure the line to a solid object, not a person. Throw the flotation aid past the victim's shoulder, then pull the aid back to them. Once the victim grabs hold, pull them to safety.
If you need to approach the person by boat, always do so slowly and from downwind or down current. Put the boat engine in neutral, being careful to keep the propeller clear of the victim. If needed, row or paddle the boat towards him.
As you approach, position yourself so he can't pull you into the water. Reach toward him with an object, not your hand or arm. Grasp him under the arms and gently bounce him up and down in the water. When he is at the highest point, step or lean your body backward into the boat.
While we're on the subject of water rescues, we'd like to talk to you a little about cold water immersion. There's a misconception that if you fall into the water in Alaska, it means a certain and quick death from hypothermia.
The fact is, people can and do survive cold water immersion simply because they're wearing their PFD.
Taking the proper pre-departure measures and carrying essential items like flares and communication devices on your person greatly increases your chances of survival.
There are 4 primary stages of cold water immersion. These include the initial reaction, short-term response, long-term response, and post-immersion. During the first stage, which occurs during the first couple of minutes, the cold water will cause an involuntary gasp reflex. This can cause hyperventilation and difficulty breathing, resulting in panic and poor decision-making. During this phase, it's critical to get your breathing under control. The second stage, short-term response, which can occur within 2 to 10 minutes, can impact survival by making it extremely difficult to do simple things, like swimming, getting into a boat, putting on your PFD, or operating emergency equipment like a signal flare. If you're not wearing a life jacket during this stage, you may be unable to keep your airway clear and ultimately drown.
The first 10 minutes of immersion is the best time to attempt survival techniques, such as reboarding the boat and signaling or communicating with rescuers. If you can't get back into the boat or out of the water, you may want to consider swimming if you are wearing a life jacket, the accident was not witnessed, there is no communication, meaning the likelihood of rescue by others is low, and you think you'll be able to cover the distance.
If you're in cold water for an hour or more, your body may go into the long-term response, also called immersion hypothermia. Hypothermia is when the core body temperature drops due to heat loss. This causes a decline in your level of consciousness and makes self-rescue difficult. Your focus at this point should be conserving heat loss and protecting your airway. Rescuers of cold water immersion victims should prevent further heat loss by protecting the victim from the elements. Treat the victim very gently. Protect high heat loss areas, such as the head. Don't give any liquids unless the victim is alert and responsive. Transport the victim to a medical facility as soon as possible, or continue to provide treatment until help arrives. If you run aground, or if you respond to a grounding emergency, the first thing to do is confirm the safety of those on board. Next, assess the situation and check the hull for damage. If the boat is undamaged and not firmly grounded, consider lightening the load and rocking the boat back and forth to free it. You can also try using an anchor to pull the boat into deeper water. If the boat is firmly grounded, stabilize it, secure fuel tanks and vents, and call for help.
If your boat is taking on water, redistribute the load and passengers to keep the boat stable, then send out a mayday. You should also start pumping or bailing water and take measures to stop or reduce the leak. Abandon ship only as a last resort, and then stay with the boat as long as it's floating.
Carbon monoxide is a colorless, odorless, and tasteless gas that is produced by your engine. Carbon monoxide poisoning can be a danger while boating, often due to poor ventilation. This typically occurs near exhaust ports, but can happen in any enclosed space on your boat. Symptoms can include watery eyes, nausea, vomiting, dizziness, and drowsiness. If you suspect that someone is suffering from carbon monoxide poisoning, get them into fresh air immediately.
In the event of a fire on board, it's important to have the appropriate fire extinguishers and know how to use them. Pull the pin on the extinguisher and aim it at the base of the fire. Squeeze the handle and sweep the spray back and forth across the base of the flames.
Certain boating accidents require you to file an accident report with the Alaska Department of Public Safety or the Office of Boating Safety. If there are more than $500 in damages, or if there is a loss of the vessel, a report must be filed within 10 days of the accident. If there is a fatality, a missing person, or an injury that requires more than basic first aid, a report must be filed within 48 hours. These reports are used by the state for statistical reporting only. Accident report forms can be found on the Office of Boating Safety website.
Thanks for joining us. We hope this overview of important boating safety tips for Alaska has been helpful, because learning more about boating only leads to a more enjoyable time on the water.
And we encourage you to seek additional education. As we mentioned earlier, the State of Alaska Office of Boating Safety is an excellent resource.
You can also keep up to date by joining boating organizations, taking classes, seminars. There are boating websites, books.
There's always going to be risks while boating, but you can help to ensure that your family's experiences and memories are good ones by managing that risk effectively. And the most important thing, always, wear your life jacket.
It could save your life. See you on the water, Alaska. Greg, sniff test. Your turn.
I'm not falling for that again. I did it last time. I'm not doing it again.
You're so